Welcome to the Women Leaders Association Daily Member Podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland. And in each Daily Member Podcast, we will pick out a great speaker from one of our meetings that we thought you would enjoy. You can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or find a networking group near you, or if you just need access to the membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
Given that was such an amazing and wonderful introduction, I'm going to skip my own introduction. I think maybe the only thing you should take away or know about me is that I'm passionate about helping other women find their superpower. And I'm going to walk through data and analytics, because that's my gig, as to why that is important, especially for women. I think many of you are very familiar with these statistics, right, around women. And it's a paradox, right? Women have made such advancements in going to college, having advanced degrees, coming out into the workforce, and 1 out of every 2 people entering the workforce are women, correct? But when you look up on the higher echelons of the organization and senior leadership, you find that this is still persistent. Unfortunately, it's persistent over many years, single-digit representation of women in sort of, the C-suite. And there is a well-studied, well-researched concept or phenomenon around the broken rungs. And I'm going to just share a statistic on this first most important managerial role, right, that people in their careers see. And for every 100 men that get promoted, only 87 women get promoted. And then of course people of color as well, both men and women. And so there's a broken rung at every stage of management, and it just increases and compounds over time. And therefore you have statistics on one end of the spectrum, versus statistics on the other. And one would ask, hey, why is this happening and what's driving it? And there are many reasons, and it's a very complex topic that I cannot cover in 20 minutes. And it is structural in nature. It is systemic in nature, often driven by behaviors and perceptions and values. And it's also personal and individual nature. So I'll just unpack one of those drivers, which is on a self-reported basis of confidence. You notice that men and women start off with a major gap, right? A very large ratings deficit starting from the beginning when they enter the workforce. And this actually, the good news, so that's the bad news. The good news is that it actually closes and narrows over time. The bad news, again, is it only closes in your mid-40s. And I can personally say that I kind of experienced the same trajectory as well. And it's a vicious cycle. Because once you start off, right, being less open to applying for stuff, being less invited to apply for stuff, having less experience, you have less opportunities. And again, it compounds over time. There are many studies about, what are the gaps and what are the drivers and how to change it. I, again, in the interest of time, will only focus on the first and most important driver in change, which is the inability or the ability, learning the ability to recognize talent, both within yourself and by others as well. And so you ask me, how do we do that? How do we recognize talent? Step number 1, break up with imposter syndrome. It is a studied phenomenon. I actually hate the word imposter syndrome for many reasons that we can go into later. But women outweigh men in the feelings of feeling like they're imposter, right? And it's more than 1 to 2. And it's an interesting statement, and I will read it word for word. Feelings are often the last to change. To stop feeling like an imposter, you have to stop thinking like one. And I think I can share a personal story about this. In my 20s and 30s, I'm not in my 20s and 30s anymore. I'm sure you all know that. I've had a serious case of imposter syndrome, right? Oh, why did I get this promotion? How did I get into MIT? Um, really want to make me a VP? Do they know what I can or cannot do? Why was I nominated to run and chair the World Economic Forum's Healthcare Forum? All these things often ran through my head. And about 10 years ago, I was kind of a support staff to our CEO level executive group. And every week I would sit in those meetings. And my job was to come up with the agendas, take notes, right? And when it came to important meetings, the CEO at the time would go around the room and he would ask every single member of his executive committee to share their opinions, right? And I would always be taking notes and assuming they would just skip over me. And one day, our CEO at that time, he gave me this book, and it was like Breaking the Bamboo Ceiling, and it was all about like Asian women and empowerment and stuff. And he's like, Vivian, you should read this. And I was like, okay, I got a book report to write. And the next week, he was in this meeting, and there was a very important leadership meeting that decision they wanted to make, and it wasn't like, sometimes it's like everybody agrees, right? This one, like some people didn't, other people didn't. They all had their ideas, and for those kinds of meetings, he would go around and ask each and every one of his C-suite to share their opinion and give a recommendation. So when it came to me, I did not even look up. Right. And there was silence. And I was like, why is everybody stopping? And I looked up and he's like, I want to know your opinion. And it's like, if there was a deer in the headlights moment, that was it. I had a major deer in the headlights moment. The good news is I actually had a point of view. So when push is shove, I actually shared that point of view. And it was very liberating, I will have to say. And after the meeting, he came up to me and he's a very quiet, unassuming guy. And he's like, Vivian, you have opinions and you have to share them. And then he walked away. And I realized that a lot of that was I didn't feel, right? I felt like an imposter, but I wasn't. I had an opinion and I could share it. And so let's maybe, given that this is a quiet, intimate setting, let's do something. Let's do an exercise or hand raising. And I will say some statements, and you can raise your hand if you affiliate with that statement. And you can keep your hands raised as I continue with different statements. So the first statement I'm going to say is, have you ever felt imposter syndrome? Yes. Okay, second statement, have you felt imposter syndrome and it prevented you from saying something or doing something? Okay. Have you felt imposter syndrome? It's prevented you from saying or doing something multiple times. This gets more interesting. Have you felt imposter syndrome? It prevented you from saying or doing something multiple times over multiple years. Okay. So think about that. Think about the opportunities you have given up, right? Think about how that may have contributed to some rung that you may not have gotten. Or even if you are a badass and you're good at it, think about whether you've lost the opportunity to help another woman break through that. Okay, so a lot of rethinking, a lot of reframing. Now, who's heard of the saying, fake it till you make it? I hate that saying. You don't need to fake it. You already have those superpowers. You already have those superpowers. So rethink and reframe, find it, and you will make it. So find it and you will make it. And that's why I have this passion to help women find it, because you already have it. So 5 things I learned about superpowers over my many years. The first, ask your friends. They have an amazing X-ray vision. They often are the ones that know you better than you know yourself, and they can see your strengths better than you can see them. So ask people who know you well, and not just, will just tell you all the wonderful things, but also tell you the hard things as well. Second, focus on your natural strengths. Now, I'm not asking you to ignore all your weaknesses, not at all. I think women tend to focus more on that, right? Don't ignore your weaknesses, but don't obsess over it. So one thing to think about yourself, okay, when you get your annual review, what is the first thing you do? What is the first thing you do? Okay, what's the first thing I do? I go to the back and find out all the bad stuff, right? And I forgot the first 5 pages about all the good stuff I did. Like, if you're finding yourself do that, remember this, right? Do not obsess over your weaknesses. Your weaknesses are not even if you address it, is not what's going to get you promoted. Silence your inner critic. I think this one is the hardest for me. I don't know about you. And don't expect to unleash that superpower in one day, right? Do not expect to leap that entire building in a single bound from day one, which leads me to the second one or the fourth one. Use it or lose it. So you have to keep on practicing your superpower. Even though it's your superpower, it is not perfect from day one. And practice, practice, practice. And then finally, I would say enjoy the discovery process. Have fun, enjoy the process. It's going to be messy. It doesn't matter. I think the nice thing is Jenny was asking you to do some homework, to take an action. I'll give you homework. Your homework is to reflect on what potentially could be your superpower. This is loosely based on this, well-researched, used 5 dynamics energies framework. And I'm going to use superheroes to kind of describe each of them so you can remember. And I'm sure, so in the study, you often have 1 or 2 of these, and it's dominant, and it's your sort of natural inclination. It's hard to find anyone has 5, but then the wonderful thing is you can focus on what those 1 or 2 things are. So the first, you like Captain America, and you are very courageous, visionary. You can show and inspire people, right? And you will get people excited about a common goal that's often altruistic and beyond yourself. You like Wonder Woman. She's got that lasso. I used to love watching Wonder Woman every Saturday mornings. And in the lasso would be like, when she put it over you, you had to tell the truth. So are you a truth seeker and truth speaker? Are you able to examine the situation, understand it, and then be able to turn around and speak truth to power and say, hey, actually, this is really what's happening, or what is. So that examination superpower. Or if you have a situation and there are multiple things, right? Are you like Dr. Strange? You have been able to go into the future and look at all the options, and you are the strategist, and you know what's going to work, and you are 10 steps ahead of people, and you're really good at evaluating and offering your recommendation. Or you like Spider-Man, where you are very adaptive and you're innovator, and maybe there is no well-pathed out solution. You have to create your own, and you have to innovate. And you are the explorer. You are looking at things that don't exist today, and you are pathing out what those things could be. And the last but not least, this is Green Lantern. I'm not as familiar with Green Lantern. I had to Google this. He apparently has his ring, and whatever idea or thought he has, he can just, I use this ring. I wish I had that ring. And he can just zap it into reality. So are you the idea materializer? You are the executor. You're very good at implementing some your own idea, somebody else's idea. You get it over the finish line. You make it a reality. Last but not least, I would ask you to power up and be your own superhero. And if I'm sure all of you, because you're in this room, you're already a badass superhero, then power up to help another woman find hers. I know I went through that really quickly and probably under time. So I wonder if there's time for any dialogue or questions and answers, or if you want to go back through any of this data. So I am a combination of explorer and execution person. So I love, and maybe this is a bit of the strategist. I grew up doing a lot of strategy and then having to now in my current role, turn around and make it a reality. So yeah, that's mine. And you can actually take a test. You can actually go to 5 Dynamics, take a test and then see what kind of superpower you have. I'd love to hear what you think you are.
Okay, I'm Megan, and I think I would be probably the combination of an excite and an execute. Because I'm very enthusiastic when I do things, but I also am notorious for getting things done.
There you go. You see, know what you're good at. Anyone else who has a sense for who they are? Oh, okay, sure. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Myrto. Excellent speech. Loved it. Well done. I see very often, and I don't want to get your thoughts and the audience's thoughts about us women. We talk a lot about our superpowers. We talk a lot about supporting each other. We started from scratch, from our families, especially as women in the 40s. That's definitely not the way I was brought up. And my mom was not that kind of a role model. But I don't think we are there yet supporting each other. And I think that's happening because we are so much caught up in this race, in this kind of maze of helping ourselves, that we don't find the energy and time to help each other. And sometimes I also feel that we're sabotaging each other because we are of the equal kind of idea, and we see each other a lot of things in common, and it's like, I'm going to get that space. No, you're not going to get that space. So is it because we're the same and we're not different? What are your thoughts?
That's a really good question. And I think that actually might feed into the next panel discussion as well, right? But maybe I'll say something just very quickly. I think, unfortunately, for many years, women that were successful because they emulated men's leadership. And a very male leadership style, I think, although I know men, emotionally intelligent males. In fact, I'm married to one of them. But I think in the workplace, you do see that what is modeled for women is this very strong leadership style that is very male dominated, which is often, I'm going to get ahead, right? And I'm going to show that I stand out from everybody else. What's fascinating, and in this next decade, if you look at the leadership challenges and issues that need to be resolved, whether it's in the public sector, the private sector, you cannot do it alone. In fact, through collaboration, through partnership, through thinking about things differently. And I think this is the century for women's leadership, because that's the kind of leadership that's going to deal with climate change. That's the kind of leadership that's going to deal with inequalities in our society. That's the kind of leadership that's going to redefine what economic opportunity means. That's the kind of leadership that's going to reinvent corporate governance, right? So I'm actually excited. One more reason, one more superpower we have, right? That actually it is our obligation and responsibility to break away. Again, I'm all about breaking up with all male-dominated norms of leadership, right? Embracing a new kind of leadership that's very, very different. Diane.
I feel a gap between courageous visionary and excite, because I feel like there's a big difference between those, because excite means somehow transfer your courageous vision to others, whereas you could be a courageous visionary without ever exciting other people about it. You know, that I'm not quite sure about that gap or how one bridges it.
Yeah, I think and you know, like this is like the Cliff Notes version, so there are many steps in between that are missing. But I think if you do have a courageous visionary orientation, and you have a clear vision of something that is really important to you, that you want to change or make an impact on, by definition, you will find ways to engage others. And most of the time, it's going to be audacious and bold, that you can't do it by yourself or be successful, that you have to galvanize and activate other people. So I think there, you know, like you said, there's several steps in between where you have to kind of fill up the story from being the courageous visionary to you know, taking action and exciting others. But there's sort of that narrative.
Actually, Diane, I think even if you don't think, or a person doesn't think that they're exciting in their style, in their communication style, or maybe their personality is not like super outgoing, but if you are courageous and you have a vision, you will, whether you want it or not, you will excite the people that maybe don't feel courageous or visionary, right? By describing what you're seeing. And maybe I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't see it. And then you make me see it, and that will excite me. So I think there's definitely, even if you yourself might not think that you can transfer it, but people will be inspired just being able to now share the vision that you have with you. So
Great point. Great point. I think people want to share in terms of an experience, whether it's you've seen the confidence gap, experienced the imposter syndrome, the things you have taken, superpowers you have unleashed. I'll end on this note then. When you think about your superpowers, there might be 4 things you want to think about. And sometimes overthinking is also a problem, right? You're like, oh, am I really that way? And then you write on the ledger like, yes, 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 no, no, no. And then you get yourself wound up. There is a feeling to like, or there's an energy you get when you're attracted to things that are your superpower. 1, you feel like it's natural and effortless, more relative to other people. 2, it makes you want to take risks and potentially even make sacrifices. 3, thing that others can see very, very clearly in, back to the, you know, other people know it sort of better than you. And 4th, I have forgotten, because memory is not my superpower, that I will refer to it. And this is again based on research. You feel a sense of fearlessness. So I'll maybe end on this note. I hate public speaking. Hate it. Hate it with a vengeance. I think maybe more than even going to the dentist, which I really hate. But I find that when I am excited and passionate about this topic, it melts away every other thing that I have, right? And people come up to me and say, like, oh, you're such a great person. Only if they know, only if they knew. And I think that when you have those feelings and you're passionate about something, a lot of the challenges, a lot of those blockers melt away. So I think if you tap into your superpower, you will find that a lot of the other things just go to the wayside, and you have a different level of energy. You're powered up in a different way. And so, okay. Sure. Yeah, exactly. This will actually help me remember. Effortless, fearlessness, the openness and willingness to take risks and sacrifice. And then now I mean, like I really need to practice on it. And other people see it a lot clearer. That's why I think you need to Get a bunch of your best friends, maybe over wine. That's the best way to do it. Show them this slide and ask them. Ask them to, kind of put you, like say, hey, which one resonates with them? And you'll be surprised. I've done this with a bunch of good girlfriends out from MIT. And they actually pointed it out much earlier than I did. They were like, oh, no. I told them I was something else. And they were like, right? And like, you're these two. And sure enough, did the profile and I came up being those two. So it is amazing how much your spouse, your friends, your close friends know much more about you than you about yourself. So thank you so much.
Hey, my friend, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, be sure to rate, review, and share your biggest takeaway. And if you're wanting more, you can access hundreds of recent speakers, book summaries, great articles, and more at no additional charge through your membership portal. You can also get involved in a Women Leaders Association mastermind group or networking group near you. Or if you just need to access your membership portal, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com to be connected. Because here at Women Leaders Association, we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. That's all for today, my friends. Bye for now.